So we're talking about basically how to tell your spouse or your partner it's time to give up on their dream. Now, I don't necessarily know if there's an answer to this question. Just, spoiler alert. Like, I don't know if it's right to tell someone to give up.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Melanin.
And I'm Beleaf Mel.
And we are here with episode 128 of How Married Are You?
Okay, my name Beleaf. This is Yvette, and we've been married 12 years. Live in California. We got four kids. Relationships are scary and it's very necessary that we share our love, our struggles, and we ask how married are you? Every week on a Thursday, shawty. If you're listening, you're in the wedding party. It's okay if you want to put your hands up. You got the questions, we got the answers.
It's chocolate baby story time.
Chocolate baby story time.
It's chocolate baby story time.
1, 2, 3, and... All right.
I'll go first.
Okay,
so this morning, I was lotioning Uzi up and getting him dressed for the day. And at one point, he goes, "Mom, what's in your eye?" And I thought he was talking about, how I have the spot in my eye. I don't know which eye it was. He was pointing at this eye. And I was like, oh, it's just, a thing. And then he goes, like, right here. And I was like, it's a spot, Uzi. I was feeling all insecure and whatnot and so forth. And then eventually I go in the bathroom to finish getting myself ready. And there's a big old white thing just hanging out below my eye.
From what?
And I was like, this is what Uzi was talking about. And
what was it?
But the thing about it, y'all, is I'm pretty sure you've seen me like that and the kids. And y'all just let me all walk around. Uzi was the only one that had my back. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
How do you know that? How do you know that I saw it?
I don't know, because because what happened was my moisturizer, you know how like when you first press the moisturizer and there's that little dot of
crusty lotion? Oh
it
my
wasn't
gosh.
crusty. But apparently I think I put it on my face, and I told you I don't be looking at myself. I just be moving about my day. And it must have just got stuck right there. And so Uzi saw it. Mm-hmm. But between the time I put that lotion on my face, were you home when I showered? After I got out of the shower?
I wasn't really home like that.
Oh,
I wasn't really...
You took Lily for a walk when I was showering, but you still came back. You should have seen it. That's all I have to say. Uzi was the only one that was looking out for his mama, and I'm so glad I looked in the mirror, because if I didn't, I would have been with that white thing on my eye.
You are responsible for you. It's not my fault that you don't know how to wipe your face. Come on now.
I did.
Anyway, I got a chocolate baby story time. I got a couple actually, man, but... this morning I woke up. Anaya.
What about Anaya? Don't be grunting at her.
Well, the other day I was walking around the house without my shirt on, and I'm walking around and doing whatever, and she's looking at me like, and she goes, "Why aren't you wearing a shirt?"
And then you got petty. What did I forgot what you said? I said,
"Why your hair ain't done?"
Which had nothing to do with her and everything to do with me.
You, right. And I was just like, don't be talking to me like that, man. I don't care. I'm petty, and I do not care. But this morning, she woke me up 4:00 in the morning to fix her head wrap.
Because I had done her hair and wrapped it up.
It was falling off. But I'm kind of like, why didn't you ask your mom to do it?
I know. That is weird that she walked right past my side of the bed.
Because you put a do-rag underneath the head wrap, and that's what happened.
You had to hold it down. And then this morning, she got all upset because I was like, because I don't know what happened, but she took her thing off and her hair was falling down. So I had to gel it back up and wrap the thing back around.
Oh.
And she was like, you should have done this yesterday. Or like, not, she didn't say yesterday. She said the wrong thing. Anywho, I was like, well, you shouldn't have taken it off. She's very snappy. Yeah. She is very
I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you come for me, I'll come right back at you. I don't care. She was like, why is your shirt off? I'm like, excuse me.
And just make sure you're prepared, because she gonna be coming right back at you too, because that's just who she is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you.
Well, we could go back and forth.
Yeah, I know.
Because
you guys are gonna just be trying to outwit each other, and it's just gonna be.
And I think that's a good father and daughter relationship. I love that.
Just be prepared. I don't want none of that energy though. We are going to be cool peoples, her and I. But let me tell you something. Okay, there's just one more. yesterday, so her hair has been kind of undone. So yesterday I finally did something to her hair because she had to go to on campus today. And I was supposed to do like a whole style, and she was like, I feel bald like this. And I was like, okay, so what do you want to do? And she wants her 2 puffs. But I just love how she like knows what she wants. Yeah. She's very direct in that way. All right, y'all. We are coming with you talking about a topic. And honestly, let me just start out this way. I do not enjoy when people say it's just the season you're in. For some reason, it's both comforting and discouraging at the same time, right? Am I alone in this, or are you vibing?
You're alone with me. I don't think that.
You don't think that?
No, because I understand that it is a season.
Yeah, but when you're in the middle of the season, it's like, don't tell me that. I just want to be out of this season. I want to be on to the next one. I don't know. Maybe I'm just impatient. Maybe that's my impatience. Gosh. Shut up. Maybe this is not leading.
Loved one. You know you're impatient. You know that you are always thinking about the next season.
I am.
Or the prior season before.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that you're reminded. And even if you don't like people saying it, that don't mean, it's not true.
Yeah.
Because you could be like, man, I hate Mondays, but it's Monday still going to be there. And you're going to be living on a Monday. It's still going to be Monday.
That's true. And that is a thing about me, is that when I am somewhere, I'm always thinking about the next thing that I have to do. And it's hard for me to be present where I'm at. And so anyway, today's episode kind of has to do with seasons. And as I was preparing for this episode, I just started to think about all the time. So a couple of years back, I don't even know how many years ago, I convinced Glen that we needed to buy raised beds, like for gardening beds. We bought 2 of these jokers. And at the time, it was a little bit more money than we really should have been spending on something like that.
Like $140. I remember a Facebook Marketplace made from scratch.
It was a little bit much. And I was like, oh, okay. And I convinced him. I was like, oh, it's going to be a great co-op experience for the kids and this, that, and the other. And sure enough, the kids and I, we got soil, we got seeds, we started planting them. And, there's things you have to know about, like before you just start putting seeds in soil, there's things you have to know. And these are things that I didn't necessarily do research on or even think about. And after I failed, I reached out to a friend of ours who was really into like growing like crops and whatnot and so forth. And I was like, hey, can you come over? He never did. But anywho, anyways, there are things you need to know. There is major things. There are certain seeds that you can't plant next to each other because their roots will choke each other, or like they are anti each other. And then the other thing you need to know is that there are certain seasons in which you are supposed to plant certain seeds. Yeah. So if you plant the wrong seed or if you plant the right seed or the wrong seed, whatever you want to call it, if you plant a seed in the wrong season, it's not going to grow into full fruition.
You preaching.
And so when we were preparing for today's topic, that immediately came to my mind because we were talking about like Glen's experience with music in particular, and how like when we first got married, Glen was on his way to becoming the next, like, what did you call it? Like they called themselves positive hip hop, but it was really Christian hip hop, right? Am I tripping?
Yeah, it was. It was Christian hip hop. It just wasn't as Christian, so we didn't say Jesus every line.
Yeah, and so me and I don't even know what you would call it, just who I am in nature. Like I never grew up, like I didn't grow up in a place where people were artists or creatives or anything like that. And so when I married Glen, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like that's a really cool hobby. But like,
it's like, that's adorable. Look at you with your little rap. Go ahead, talk, baby, in the microphone.
But I don't think that I fully realized that it was going to become, like, it was his goal to make it a career. Like that was so far removed from anyone in my circle, like, oh, they're going to become a music artist or whatever. That I was like, no, okay, so what's your actual plan? Like, you're going to go to school and you're going to do occupational therapy, or you're going to become a teacher, or, you're going to do something. Woo. And this is something you're going to do.
I was doing something
on this side. And so Glen, he was doing his things, and then we would see like glimpses of like, oh, wow, this is like popping off. You guys are creating a following. You're getting booked. You're doing well. It was beautiful to see. But I still in the back of my mind was like, okay, like this is only for a season. And so today, I don't know if we want to say explicitly what we want to talk about, or do you want to say more on that?
First of all, I want to talk about the raised beds.
Oh.
Because you sure did have me go out there and pick up them raised beds from that guy. Okay. Now, I want to say something about them raised beds.
Yes.
They never grew nothing.
No. We did get bell peppers at one point.
That we ate, or that sprouted?
Well, like we got a bell pepper. We got a bell pepper, y'all.
That
and we got a tomato.
Was this big.
Yeah, it was very small.
That's not even
and
a full
then we
bell
failed.
Pepper.
But and the cool thing about is when
that raised bed was a casket.
So yesterday, I am hurt.
I'm sorry.
I am hurt.
I'm sorry.
Stop. I'm trying, y'all. But the interesting thing I was telling Rogelio, because remember when you planted the pumpkin things, I was talking to him about how I would like to put the raised bed somewhere. And I was telling him how, like, when you had the raised bed closer to the deck, the seeds seemed to be doing really well. And then you moved them to the other side, like just a few, whatever, over, and they just died. Mm-hmm. And he was like, it's like a shock to the system because they were growing in the shade, but then he put them in the sun. And he's like, whenever you move something like that, it's going to kill the plant.
That's so sad.
And then he was kind of showing me where we should place the raised beds around the house in order to make them more optimal to grow something. So that was good information to have. But yeah.
Okay.
But go ahead and say what you gotta say, bro.
Okay. So the seeds. So I want to talk about you. You gave me a timeline. So I think it was like, hey, you're doing this music thing. That's really cool. When is it over? Mm-hmm. Like, when is it gonna be done? Or what's the timeline? Can I get and it was very grownish of you. It was like, all right, bro, some point we're gonna, this can't be it, right? And I think there was a little bit of truth to what you were saying, because I do believe that I was doing the right thing. I don't know if I was doing it at the right speed or with the right focus or intention or motive. Like, I don't know what it was, but it definitely wasn't right time, I don't think. Mm-hmm. I think once, so we're talking about basically how to tell your spouse or your partner it's time to give up on their dream. Now, I don't necessarily know if there's an answer to this question. Just, spoiler alert. Like, I don't know if it's right to tell someone to give up. Or to stop. But I know that there are times when people will sacrifice the family for their dream, and it becomes a toxic, self-ambitious, like self-gaining thing that is like lacking accountability and mentorship and respect for the game or the hustle. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Some of you guys just really talk about stuff you want to do and never do it. You know what I'm saying? Some of you guys have old tactics in new seasons, and I think you really got to do a lot of self-evaluation, because your spouse shouldn't have to tell you, hey, man, this ain't working. Mm-hmm. You should be able to see yourself. The market should be able to tell you that. Now, there are definitely situations where you should hold on and believe in yourself and all that stuff. But I don't, it's so crazy how often I have to remind you of like, yo, we good. Here's the goal. Here's the plan. Here's where we're at in the plan. Now, I think maybe, and I'm not even saying maybe, but you've definitely had a little bit of like, okay, we already did this with music, so I'm not doing this again with you, So let's take it back. So started out doing music in 2000. I want to say 2004. I started doing music with my homie Harry back in Baltimore.
Okay.
He was producing, and I was just sitting there watching him. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of couldn't rap anything. Like my rhymes was trash. My name is Glen. Rhymes with hen. Like it was like really bad. My name is Yvette. I drive a Corvette.
Why didn't you let me say it? I was gonna say it.
Okay,
I was gonna tell my lines.
Yeah, that's your job.
I'm done.
Yeah, sorry. So I was, I don't know. That's how married I am. So anyway, I was trying to like rhyme, and it was bad. And I was thinking maybe production. And then I remember during the time I went to college for that semester at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, I was like around a bunch of poets, and everybody was super artistic, but nobody made money off of it. You know what I'm saying? Like the only people that made money off of music was DJs that I knew. And so when I moved out to Cali, literally I met Jesus and I got talent. It was like like November. I remember the month, like I all of a sudden could rap. And it was like, why? I didn't know I could come up with that. You know what I'm saying? And then I started DJing, and I got good at that really fast. And started DJing at local events. It just happened so fast. It was like God blessed me with a talent. So I knew I was supposed to use it. I just didn't know why. So it felt very like personal relationship with the Lord for me to use the gift. Now we made money, but not like money. You know what I'm saying? And we were together. I was obviously working part-time, and then I was doing music on the side, and then I stopped working and started going to school, and then started doing music more, and then I don't know what happened after that. I know we had Theo, and then I went to work full. I went fully into the work, and I was like, I'm gonna show up early. I'm gonna stay late. My car broke down. I rode a bike. I was in there. I was going crazy. I got a baby on the way. I don't care. I was sweeping the floors at the up in Camp Pendleton at some like logistics space, but I was sweeping it like I was sweeping up gold coins. Like I was in there hustling. And they kept giving everybody promotions that were prime military because that's what they do. They look out for their people. And I just realized, man, like they ain't never going to really rock with me like that. Then we got pregnant with Uriah. You got pregnant with Uriah. You asked me to be a stay-at-home father. I came home, was doing stay-at-home dadding and doing music. Now, at this point, sometime before that, you were kind of like, hey, like when are you going to...
I think I recall it that I was like, okay, like let's give this another 5 years. And then in 5 years, let's kind of reevaluate where we're at with music.
That's a long
That's
time.
what I remember saying was 5 years.
Everything's 5 years with you. The multiples of five.
I'm telling you.
Because that's a long time to give someone to pursue a passion.
I mean, when you think about it, year 5, we had 2 kids. I don't know. Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, so we did the whole thing, 5 years. Uriah came. I was a stay-at-home dad. Then I started making the videos on YouTube, and that started to grow. What I realized, though, is that I didn't really have a purpose for why I was doing music. I just was doing it, you know? And even when I started doing music, it was like, I just don't want to listen to stuff on the radio. I'd rather listen to my own stuff. You know what I mean? And I think toward the end of like and I still do music on a weekly basis for the YouTube channel, and we make music here, and all the stuff that you hear is, you know, produced by us and stuff. But I think my solo music career, which I do plan on putting out another album because I'm like that. But I realized by the end I was finally making the music I wanted to make, but I was so hurt by the process. And so when I was making the music, we would spend this time where there wasn't, nothing really popped off. We were doing, it was like back when we were doing the breaks, and it was like every week we would drop a new remix Wednesday. And like every other Saturday you take me on a hike and be like, so what do you want to do with your life?
I don't know if it was every other Saturday.
Like we would end up on a hike somewhere, and then she just like, she wait till we get to the top of the mountain, and she'd be like, so maybe like being a substitute teacher would be cool. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, oh my gosh. And then the whole way down the hike, I'm trying to speed down the hill so we can get behind it. She's kind of chasing
He's like trying to ride down a slide.
Like, get out of here, man. Stop talking to me about this. Because it was always like, what do you want to do with your life? And I know a lot of like women reach out to me or maybe even reach out to you and they're like, well, how do I get my guy to get it? Like, how do I get him to understand that I but I want more ambition for him, and how can, he flip this into a real career? And I think that just has to come from him, I don't know if there's anything that Yvette did specifically that was like, all right, now I believe I can do it. She just asked questions. And I heard the answers sounding stupid coming out of my mouth. Like, it wasn't that she made me feel stupid. She just asked questions and I didn't have answers to them. And they were legitimate questions that I needed to know. She needed to know the answers to, and I should know the answer to if I'm pursuing anything creatively. And so you did give me a timeline, but I do think I think it was honorable for you to say, hey, like, here's the amount of time I think that is sufficient. And then by then, let's reassess. We came to that point. But I think there was, once I figured out what that thing was, are you trying to interrupt me? Something?
I was about to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Once I figured out what that thing was, I think there also is a certain mindset that you have to have when you see your man has it figured out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I think you definitely adjusted to, but in the beginning you were kind of like, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, and I think that was a part of like the conversation that we were having, because you're like, you actually made a statement and you said, this is something that I could have said to you is, I really want to support you. How can I do that best in this season?
Yeah.
How do we gauge that this is the right season to do this in? Because we talked about, like, at one point, Glen realizing that music was the right thing, but in the wrong season. Would that be accurate, or am I wrong?
I would say it was always the right thing. Like, music for me isn't just like putting out music.
Yeah.
It's a therapy thing. You know what I'm saying? Like journaling.
But your pursuit of a music career
was probably the wrong season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the thing is, I think that the piece that we were missing is that I was like, okay, let's reassess in 5 years. But we didn't necessarily have markers to reassess. Like, you know how, for example, when our children are in school and they have learning goals that they're supposed to have, that they're supposed to meet by a certain age, like the average kid meets this thing. And now, mind you, a music career isn't necessarily like something you can measure averagely, but you have markers that you can meet in order to know that we are progressing, that we are on the right track towards success or growth or something. Our bank account is padded. No, I'm just kidding. But we didn't have that element of it. And I think that if we were to go back to our younger selves or earlier in our marriage, that we might try to have some things that would help us gauge, like, if we were still on track.
Yeah. Well,
or even just to be like, I don't know, like, go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, I wasn't a bum.
No,
right?
Most definitely not.
Right? Like, my whole first album, Red Pills and Black Sugar, right? I recorded that during the time when you were asleep, the kids were asleep, and I was supposed to be asleep. So from the hours of, 10 to 2 in the morning, I recorded that whole record. You know what I'm saying? Even so much to when, like, the album came out, I was like, yo, the album is out. You were like, how many songs do I have on it? I was like, 13. You're like, when did you have time to record 13 songs? I was like, when you were sleeping. You know what I'm saying? And I was up at work at 7 in the morning every day. So I wasn't like a bum. The second album, I was home being a stay-at-home dad. Now, I'm talking about pre my solo days when I was doing music in a group. And those, during that time, was kind of like, well, I'm relying on this dude to make, the leader of the group, like, to make the right decisions for us to move forward. And I'm not saying those decisions weren't good or right. I mean, we were making money, but, like, there's, with artists, like, it's not like, here's benchmarks.
Yeah.
You get this look, and then after that, because I know artists that just popped off who've been doing it for years. A lot of those times, like, when we were doing shows and nobody was there, like, I remember doing a show in Salem, Massachusetts. It was
Why were y'all even there?
Because Pastor Joby had a friend there when we were on tour at one of the things and was like, yeah, I have a venue. He had a venue. It was a church that there used to be a bank.
Ooh.
And it was called the Vault Church or something like that. So it had like a vault in the middle of it.
That is funny.
And we did it during Halloween time. And it was like a Halloween festival during that time. And there was only 3 people in the crowd. And I said crowd. Right? There's only 3 people in the venue.
And y'all rapped to
And
them?
we rapped to the 3 people, no stage. Guess what they were?
White.
Not only were they white, there were 2 witches and a vampire. I promise you.
Are there pictures?
Were 2 witches and heck no, ain't no pictures. We just
That deserved a sound effect. Why didn't you?
I don't know. 2 witches and a vampire we performed for. It was rough. And it was like, man, I don't know if we're gonna make it out of this. But we were traveling, right? So it's like you could say,
and you were paid regardless, right?
We didn't get paid for that.
Oh my goodness.
We didn't get paid for that venue. We got paid on that run because we were going on tour. So tour works like Saturday night you make money, Sunday night you don't, Monday night you don't.
Oh, I didn't.
Tuesday
know
night
that.
you make money. Like, you know what I'm saying? And you try to sell shirts, sell CDs, you promote. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how it is. And so we definitely had some rough times, and we paid our dues. And I think that if I was still doing that, I mean, I'd be touring around the country. I'd probably be one of the top artists right now. Because the thing is about music is that all people really want to do is trust you with their time. You're going to deliver exactly like you're supposed to, better each time. And because we can always rely on you, I'll never people want someone they can rely on. So it's artists that aren't that great, but because they've been doing it consistently for so long, people always lean on them. You know what I mean? And so with me, I just didn't have the bandwidth to keep it up because I was around so many rappers and just watching people. And I'm kind of like, I am not like these people. I'm just not like that. You know what I mean? And besides, in order to consistently make money in music, you have to travel, which is not something I'm passionate about. With the family or without the family, I don't like to travel, right? I do not like to travel, but the bread and butter was going out on tour, you know what I'm saying? And then streaming started and it got really tough. So I had DJing, writing music, performing, selling records, and everything was kind of on a decline. And I had to look at myself and say, okay, are these things that I really want to do for the rest of my life, right? And that question that you asked, right, what's your 5-year plan? Me sitting down with Scotty James, 5 once again.
I do have a thing with 5.
All right. And speaking of your things with 5s, I got to Muhammad Radar is about 5 minutes.
God.
It's about a 5-minute section.
All right.
I'll tell you about it in a second.
Go ahead, please.
So stay tuned for that.
Oh my goodness.
So we get to this point where Scotty James asked me, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? What's your 15-year plan? I was 30. I said, I don't know. I know I don't want to be rapping at 45. I'm not trying to do that. I don't want to be rapping at 45. So what do you want to be doing? I want to be home. I want to stay home. I'm a homebody. I want to be at the house. And I figured out how to do that. Now, once I figured that out, the tenacity and the focus I had, it was like nobody's opinion mattered.
Heisman on them.
I was mushing everybody in my way. And it wasn't like I would, like, they'd be like, hey, they'd be like, why are you doing that? And I'm just kind of like, you don't get it? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you not get it? And it was like, it made so much sense to me because the market's wide open. I was just talking to Kier this morning. Like, the market is still wide open for fathers, for fatherhood content. Like, nobody's talking about it, right? Because people don't see it as valuable as other positions. So, like, it's still wide open. And I'm just like, people still don't get it today. And once you figure out what that thing is, especially if you're creative, then it's up to you to manifest it to everybody else that doesn't see it. Because at this point, like I said before, they used to ask me why. Now they ask me how. And they ask, are you hiring? Real talk.
Yeah. So I have a question because you are talking about a creative in the genre of music artists. But there are people out there who are entrepreneurs who are trying to start this business, that business, and the other. And so do you think anything that you're saying might resonate with them differently? Because not everyone is like specific to our situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one is like, I think it all applies because we're talking about having people's attention. And any entrepreneur, all they want is someone's attention. And so how are you going to get that person's attention, right? And some people say, okay, well, I want to write stories. Like I want to blog and I want to tell like stories and maybe write a novel one day. Okay, so you do short stories. How do you get people to read it? Well, you got to start an email list or something. You know what I'm saying? How do you get an email list started, right? So you have to, it's very simple, but you have to give away content that people want for free to get an exchange for their attention, which is their email or their phone number. And then you have to give them the information. Like the free stuff should be good. The stuff that people are giving you their email for should be better, right? And then people will rely on you just like they do the artists we were talking about before. And then, right?
I see what you're saying.
It's just a cycle. So they'll rely on you. They'll trust you because that's really what people are paying for. They're paying like, don't waste my time. You know how many people know that I do music but just will not listen? I was talking to Mikey Chapman a while ago. Remember from Black Millennial Marriage?
Oh, yeah.
Mikey and Randy. Oh. So I was talking to him. And he was like, bro, I'm gonna be honest with you, dog. Like, I knew you did music, and I did not want to listen to it because I liked you and I didn't want to hate you. He's like, I did not want to listen to you because people like when I say yo, I rap, like people kind of like, oh God, another one. Like I get it. Like you're not expecting me to rap well. You know what I'm saying? It's just not what you're thinking. But he was like, oh, man, I listened to the joints. It's really, really good, man. You're really dope. And I'm like, thank you. But I know how hard that is because I already got my rap guys. I already got Black Thought, Nas. And I'm not even I don't want to hear my rap guys make new music. I want to, because I don't want you to switch it up too much. Now, Black Thought just put out an album. It's amazing. Nas' last album was really dope, too. But
these podcast is not sponsored.
No. I'm just flexing on some creative stuff right now.
I love that.
But these people, like I just want to trust my people for what it is, right? When you go to a cake, you want a cake, you go to Nothing But Cake. Because you know that it's consistent, right? It's consistent, the flavor and all that stuff. Now, if Arco was like, yo, we got the best cake. Like I get my gas at Arco. I don't want no cake from Arco. I get my fatherhood content from Beleaf and Fatherhood. I want music from you, bro. Give me the fatherhood stuff. Yeah. Right. So you got to give people what they're asking you for.
You know, that's interesting because as you're talking, like I am realizing what a consumer I am.
Oh yeah.
Shut up.
I'm so sorry. I love you.
I've said shut up twice. I apologize. This morning I had to apologize to Theo for saying shut up.
Ooh.
I know. But you know how it's so early in the morning. That boy has a high
kind words
voice.
Kind words, babe,
I know.
On music, on school drums.
I know. That's why I apologize. Anywho, Alex L. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but I started following her on Instagram, I don't even know how many years ago. And her post, something about her post, I feel like she gives me permission to grow and to be in process. Like there's just something about her, and she consistently puts out what she calls gentle reminders. And every single time that I encounter one of her gentle reminders, I am encouraged by it. So much so that at some point I signed up, I gave her my email address because I was like, yeah. And every time if I see, because you know how the emails get buried, but if I am in my email and I see she sent out a newsletter, which she does very consistently, then I will open it and read it and find myself encouraged. And every time she puts out a book, I buy it. But it was like the free content, the free encouragement, the free reminders that she was giving me, and the consistency and the fact that I knew that I could rely on. I was listening to you. I was like, oh, shoot, she got the whole system down packed.
Yeah.
But like I have all of her books, and she's about to come out with a new book that I've already pre-ordered like months ago. You know what I'm saying? And so, and even when she does workshops, I usually sign up for them, but I sometimes am not able to be a part of it just because of scheduling. But yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
And so people are they want to rely on you, right? Here's the thing now is where that works the same way in our marriage. And you trusted me with the company, right? So I have my process for how we started this company, like I really believe I got it out the mud. Like, oh my gosh. Started with 4,000 Instagram followers, which is a lot from music. But I got it out the mud. Like, being in that garage, editing those videos on that hard chair.
That you now use to cut the boys' hair.
Yeah, it was another chair I had before that, but it was crickets in the yard and spiders crawling on me, and like, you know, you'd be sitting there editing and then something, you know what I'm saying, and the kid comes in and
he used to have a fly swatter right next to him.
You know, I had my mouse pad was my diploma from high school. Like I was grinding. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the type of vision I had. Not everybody saw it, right?
Including his wife.
Right, including you. But like, I think that when you look at it from where you're at now, it's kind of like you saw that I was very diligent with my time back then. And now as I'm making decisions, like even when I'm having this conversation, this is the easiest conversation ever because this stuff is literally in my psyche. Like this is how I act, not necessarily what I talk about. It's like DNA. You know what I mean? And so I think I had to build rapport with you so that you could trust me with my time. Because I think even for a while, you didn't even understand the process of editing. You're like, why do you have to do all that? Like, what are you doing up there? I'll be right back. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a lot of like, I'm like, yo, I'm trying to edit this. You know what I mean? And, you know, I'd never want you to struggle, but I do want you to understand what I'm experiencing. So sometimes I'll put the weight back on you. Like when we started this podcast, if I was like, yeah, who's going to edit it? I'm like, you are. I started editing it and I was like, yeah, your turn. Because I just needed you to get it, you know? So even when we're hiring people and we're seeing like what it costs, like, you know what it costs, you know what it's, you know? So, but I think that during that time, when you knew I had it, when you knew it was kind of like, all right, he's on to something here. I think that the heart toward like me, like, I think that could have been a little bit, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like I was pregnant with a business. You know what I'm saying? And so and then I'm not trying to relate the two, but this is the only way I can think about it because I feel like something is brewing inside of you that you got to get out. And so when you were pregnant with Theo, with Raya, with all the kids, and it wasn't as crazy the last couple times, but the first
crazy.
Well, I mean, like I'm talking about my service towards you.
Oh,
like I wasn't like, I was like, you good? All right, cool. Because mind you, while you're pregnant, I'm taking care of more kids.
Yeah.
Right.
The more, I understand.
Yeah.
I totally understood.
So I'm like, you're pregnant and I'm serving you. I'm anticipating what you'll need. I'm thinking about, you know, how I can support in different ways and pretty much just dedicated to you. And I think that as much as we say, well, I really want my husband to get it or I want my wife to get it and I want to, like, if you know that she's on to something, that's one thing if you don't believe in him or her. But it's another thing if you see that what they're doing is working, then you got to be all in. You got to be able to support that person because that business or whatever is going to birth something that is going to give you tenfold return, I believe.
And I think I want to add something to that because I feel like when a woman is pregnant, like she's the one that's kind of getting to feel the baby move, feel the growth happening. Her body is changing. There's something happening between the mom and the baby. And it's not until the baby comes out of the womb that the father begins to build a connection. And so I feel like, and I don't even know if this is a true parallel, but there is like an opening yourself up to what is being birthed in your spouse that makes you better able to, or it gives you proximity to be able to experience what is happening. And I will say that it wasn't really until I opened up my IG. So when Glenn first started Beleaf in Fatherhood,
Can I just interrupt for a second? I just want to say that you can't form a connection before the baby comes out.
Yeah. Exactly. That's basically what I was trying to say. But like when Glenn was starting Beleaf in Fatherhood, I was still teaching. So I kept my Instagram private. But when I came home in 2017 and, you know, I was no longer teaching and I didn't really care what the kids saw because they were seeing his content anyway, then I stopped. I took my IG off private. And that's when I started getting the influx of DMs from people who were engaging with Beleaf in Fatherhood. And I realized that these individuals were missing something that I had growing up. So I grew up in a Black Baptist church and I got to see a variety of different types of Black families and Black professionals and this, that, and the other. And even just family units, like together, a husband and a father, a wife and a mother. What? A spouse, two people married, a man and a woman married, raising children together in a Christian home. Now, when you get older,
that was normal for you.
That was a norm for me. And yes, I did see like the single mothers. I saw that side of things too. And I've seen divorced people. I've seen all of that. But for the most part, like a normal family unit was something that I was exposed to and that I myself had experienced. And so when I started to get the feedback from the people just thanking me or expressing gratitude or expressing how it was really helpful for them to be able to see this part of our life or that part of our life or how we give them hope for their future, I was like, oh, I didn't realize, because I've been in my own bubble for umpteen years, I didn't realize that what was normal to me or what I grew up with was something that other people needed. And even as I get older now, I am acknowledging, I was just talking to a woman today and she's like, you know, I'm proud of you, Yvette, because you don't necessarily know what you need, but you are reaching out. And I was like, yeah, like I really don't know what I need, but I know there is something missing and I need somebody to like pour into me in a way that is going to help me grow and develop or just have hope to keep pushing. And so I will say that like that is an element of what Glenn had started that I didn't understand. I was like, why are you, like, I didn't even know that family vlogging was a thing. And even like, I don't even know if you would categorize us as that, because I know that we are so much more than the normal family vlogger and what we are trying to put out into the world. And so I'm grateful that I had the opportunity that I like came to, or that I got the opportunity to bond with what was birthed from this man, because had I not made myself available to that, then I could have missed it and it could have been very detrimental for our family unit. But I do believe that this is a place that the Lord has called us to, and we are walking in obedience to whatever this is.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like we're at a stage where it's really important. Like, you know, I think it's beneficial if you're pursuing a career and there's already like steps that you can go to that's kind of like already figured out for you, right? So it's like, okay, well, I'll start as a teacher, and then I don't know where you go, administrator, you know what I'm saying? And you move up and you maybe one day want to be a superintendent, or you start out as a lawyer, you end up as a judge, you know what I'm saying? Like there's different pathways. With this, there really ain't no, like, it's literally like whatever you want to do. Like I can go back to school, get a counseling degree, I could become a life coach, I could, speak, write books or whatever. But, this is definitely one of the most challenging things I've ever had to do, because I didn't realize what I was asking for, right? I didn't know I was trying to become a CEO of a company, right? And I would have to, even talking to the employees sometimes, I'm kind of like, okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't understand what's going on in your mind or the things that you're carrying. And which reminds me of, this story I read about, what's that dude's name? Rob Iger, I think his name is, CEO of Disney, who, the best day of his life and the worst day of his life on the same day. He's opening up Disney World in Japan or China, I think. I'm not sure where it was. I'm so sorry. I don't remember. But the same day he's about to give this tour in Mandarin to all these diplomats and stuff like that is the same day a little child got eaten by an alligator in Florida. And he has to wrestle with this duality. And it's not fair. We just watched Kev on Stage win New York Times bestseller. And then Jason, his brother, passed away at the same time. It's not fair. You know what I'm saying? And I'm realizing how much it's going to cost me, right? It's just a different mindset that you have to have in order to be I'm going to pursue this even when I don't want to do that. Even when I should not do it. No, I should not do that. I should not go to work today, right? But it's when you're a CEO, sometimes you don't really have a choice. Everybody's relying on you. You know what I'm saying? And so, of course, self-help, you can protect self-care. You can protect yourself, protect your peace and all that stuff. But it's just going to pile up and you got to do it later. You know what I'm saying? So it's either you figure out how to survive in the chaos and thrive in the chaos, or you just stop and you quit, And I didn't know I was signing up for that. I just thought I was going to be making dope dad videos, right? And I was talking to Preston earlier today, Preston Perry. He was like, bro, the way you pivoted out of this music thing is it's like chef's kiss. He's like, bro. And I was just like, and people have been asking me lately, what am I aspiring toward, right? What are we aspiring toward? So just a little, plug or whatever, we have merch coming out soon. October 13th, we're dropping the next merch launch. Yvette is going to spearhead it. Love on Purpose is coming out. Really dope. But we also have rebranding for How Married Are You, which we're going to be showing you guys next week as well. And so, the whole goal for the entire company is to equip fathers, give hope to mothers, and inspire children. And so, we have 3 different entities that will accomplish that. But we also know there's love and hope for creators, and there's more we can give to, people who are single or don't have kids or whatever situation is. But ultimately, there has to be an alignment with you and I, where you have to say, okay, one, I can't control anything, right? You could have never convinced me to be a substitute teacher.
I tried. Not substitute. I was trying to get you to be a teacher.
Yeah. It was no way that was going to happen. It was no way I was going to be sitting in school, for the love of you. I love you a lot. You know what I'm saying? But it was it was no way.
What did you do, a semester?
Man, it was so bad. I do not, I wasn't passionate about it.
Yeah, you were not.
You know what I'm saying? But I was willing to pretend I was for you.
And you even had a professor that was your friend, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I was going to his class, and I think I learned a lot, but I didn't do well in that. So, but there had to be an alignment where you and I come together. Do I think it would have been beneficial for me to have it figured out and make money and be a lot more well off before we got married? Of course. It would have saved us a lot of heartache. It would have saved us more time, and we got to travel a lot together and stuff like that. But I do think it was something very serendipitous about the way things happen with us. And it also gives us an ear to people who may not have it all figured out, which I think is where we kind of shine through. And so I would say that if you want to tell your spouse, can I tighten it up here?
Yeah.
I think if you want to tell your spouse to give up on their dream, I would tell them don't. I would tell you to ask them questions about where they're going and what's their plan, because I think that is your business, to know where that person is trying to guide and lead themselves and lead you. You know what I mean? If Yvette ever told me, you're making that video, I don't think it's authentic to who you are. Like, I would, like, because of who I am, I would have a gut check, and I would have to respond to that. Be like, okay, well, I can't put that out, or whatever the situation is. I think that type of accountability is important. But I do think if you're creative, be realistic with yourself. What's your goal? You know, of course, you got to bring some type of income into the home. You know, or you don't have to. I don't know what your marriage situation is, but if that is one of your standards, then I think you should give yourself a timeline for yourself. Like, your person shouldn't have to tell you that. They're not your mom or dad, right? You should give yourself that timeline, and you should say that the mindset is like, what won't I do? You know what I'm saying? It's something crazy. Like, it's almost like when I think about it, it's like I'm actually insane. It's like there's nothing I won't do to figure this out. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna do anything illegal, but like there's very little. Like, I'm not gonna get myself to a point where I'm scratching and surviving to make it. You know what I'm saying? But if that's what I got to do, that's what's gonna happen. Because, you know, we got people relying on us. You know. So anyway, babe, how married are you?
I'm so married that I have been really working at being more intentional about initiating sex.
You have. We're doing great.
Thanks, babe. How married are you?
So the other day when you were like, I don't know. Okay, so can you help me understand?
Oh, Lord.
So you initiated sex. Great job. But you said you wanted a quickie. Now, I'm confused on, did you actually want it, or were you doing that for me?
So sometimes I just want to, you know, experience the pleasure and then go to bed.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't have to be an event. It doesn't have to be a marathon. It just, let me have my feeling, and then I'm going to go to bed.
Now, see, I aligned with that. And that's why that's my how married are you. That's how married I am. You said you want a quickie, and I was like, fine, that's good with me. That works with my schedule perfectly. Let's get this over with.
And that's just how married we are.